There's a simple rule in elite longevity science. What gets measured gets managed. And if that's true, then most of us are flying blind.
Because we're either measuring the wrong things or measuring them so rarely that by the time we see a problem, the damage is already done.
This isn't a tech review, and it's not a gadget unboxing. This is about whether daily measurement can actually help you manage aging, or whether tools like this just give you more numbers and more anxiety.
By the end of this video, you'll know whether this is a legitimate longevity tool for your routine or something you should skip entirely.
Most of us already track something. We all have a bathroom scale. And let's be honest, we all kind of hate it because all it tells us is how heavy we are, not how healthy we are.
It doesn't tell you if you're losing muscle. It doesn't tell you if visceral fat is creeping up. It doesn't tell you anything about how you're actually aging. So we're measuring, but we're measuring the wrong thing.
Now, if you're really serious about longevity, your next thought might be, okay, forget the scale. I'll just get a DEXA scan. And you're not wrong. A DEXA scan is incredibly accurate.
But here's the problem no one talks about. You don't get those scans often enough to manage anything. Once or twice a year isn't feedback. It's a snapshot. Precision without frequency doesn't change behavior.
And this is where things get dangerous, because the most important changes happen invisibly. You can look the same in the mirror, you can weigh the same on the scale, and still be losing muscle while gaining visceral fat.
2 pounds of muscle swapped for 2 pounds of fat won't move the scale at all, but it's a disaster for longevity. That's how decline actually happens. Not because you weren't disciplined, but because you couldn't see what was changing.
When the data is invisible, you're not managing your health, you're just guessing. So here's the uncomfortable truth that we've learned after years of obsessing over health data. Longevity doesn't improve when you measure perfectly. It improves when you measure consistently.
We've all avoided stepping on the scale after a bad weekend because we didn't want to see the number. But when you hide from the data to protect your feelings, you're not failing, you're flying blind.
A DEXA scan might be more accurate, and an in-body scan might be more detailed. But if you only see those numbers twice a year, this isn't data, it's history. Real change requires feedback you can't ignore, day after day.
So the real question for us wasn't, what's the most accurate scan on the planet? It was, what actually gives us feedback often enough to change behavior? Something you'll use, something with low friction.
That's what made us curious about this. Not as a miracle device and not as a replacement for clinical scans, but as a daily feedback tool. Something that might finally make aging visible while there's still time to act.
This is the Hume Health BodyPod, and the question isn't whether it's perfect, it's whether daily measurement actually works.
So the first time we stepped on this thing, we didn't scroll around looking for every number. We were really looking for one question to be answered. Does this thing tell us anything we don't already know?
And honestly, the first number that stopped us wasn't weight. It was metabolic age, because metabolic age isn't flattering. It's not a vanity metric.
It's the device's estimate of how your body is actually functioning compared to your chronological age. And when we saw that number, it forced a conversation.
If your metabolic age is higher than your actual age, that's a warning sign. It usually points to things like lower muscle mass, higher visceral fat, or metabolic inefficiency. If it's lower, that doesn't mean you've won, but it does mean the systems that matter for longevity are moving in the right direction.
The next number that really mattered to us was muscle mass. Because muscle isn't about looking fit, it's about resilience.
It's what protects you from frailty, falls, and loss of independence as you age. You don't notice muscle loss week to week, but over months, that's where people get blindsided.
The one that honestly deserves the most respect and maybe the most fear is visceral fat. This is the fat you can't see. It doesn't always change your weight. It doesn't always change how you look.
But it's strongly linked to inflammation, insulin resistance, and long-term disease risk. Seeing that number regularly isn't about panic, it's about early course correction.
What surprised us the most wasn't any single number. It was how quickly this stopped feeling judgmental and started feeling useful. The data wasn't telling us whether we were good or bad. It was telling us, here is where you are now. You get to decide what to do next. Now let's talk about accuracy, because this is where a lot of people get hung up. If you're wondering, is this as accurate as a DEXA scan? The honest answer is no.
And that's not a knock, that's just reality. No at-home device is going to match a clinical scan done under controlled conditions. But here's the mistake people make. They assume accuracy is the same thing as usefulness.
For longevity, that's not true. I don't need to know whether I have exactly 14.2% body fat. What I need to know is whether that number is moving up or down compared to yesterday, last week, or even last month.
That trend line tells me far more about my health trajectory than a perfectly precise snapshot I only see twice a year. If a device is consistent, meaning it measures the same way every time, it becomes incredibly powerful.
Because now you're not chasing a number, you're watching a direction. And that's the missing piece with most health data. We get these rare, hyper-accurate moments, and then we go back to guessing for the next 6 months. Before we talk about daily use, we need to clear something up, because this is the number one question we see in the comments. Yes, Hume has a paid subscription, but here's the reality, we just use the free version.
With the free tier, you still get your core measurements, your trends over time, and the ability to track direction, which is exactly what modern medical longevity standards actually demand.
If this scale turned into a dumb brick without a monthly fee, we wouldn't have made this video, period.
We actually recommend you start with the free tier. Prove to yourself that daily measurement fits your lifestyle before committing to anything else.
Think of the subscription as an optional coach you add later, but the scale, the hardware that gives you the truth every morning, works without it. And that matters because nobody needs another subscription trap.
Daily or near daily measurement turns health into something you can actually manage. You see how sleep affects you. You see how training affects you, not emotionally, just as information.
So for us, trust didn't come from believing this was perfect. Trust came from seeing that the numbers behaved logically over time. When we trained harder, certain metrics moved one way. When recovery slipped, they moved another.
Longevity isn't about perfection. It's about catching problems early while they're still small, still reversible, and still under your control. And for that, a reliable trend line beats a perfect snapshot every single time.
Once we got past the accuracy question, the next thing we cared about was friction. Because none of this matters if it's annoying to use. If this felt like a chore, we wouldn't do it, and neither would you.
The first thing you notice is the handlebars. It definitely feels more medical than a normal scale. And I won't lie, the first couple of times it feels a little more serious, but it's not awkward.
You step on, grab the handles, and stand still. That's it. Once you've done it a few times, it just becomes part of the motion. The scan itself is quick. We're talking seconds, not minutes.
And the sync to the app is basically instant. There's no waiting, no fiddling, no wondering if it worked. For us, this fits perfectly into the normal morning routine.
Most people step onto a scale before they shower anyways. This just replaces that. Same moment, slightly better information. The app doesn't throw you a wall of charts at you first thing in the morning.
You open it, see your numbers, and you're done. If you want to dig deeper, you can, but you don't have to. It feels more like a quick check-in than a data analysis session.
That's the difference. This doesn't ask you to be a biohacker. It just asks you to be consistent. And because it's fast and predictable, it's something we've actually stuck with. This is the part of the video that most reviews skip, but it matters because this tool is not for everyone. And if it's the wrong fit, you should absolutely save your money.
This is not for you if numbers make you anxious. If seeing your weight fluctuate half a pound ruins your day, this will probably stress you out more than it helps.
And if you're looking for a magic mirror, something that tells you what you're doing great no matter what, again, this isn't it. This device doesn't flatter, it doesn't reassure, it just reports.
It's also not for you if you only want to think about your health once or twice a year. If you're not willing to look at trends honestly, even when they're inconvenient, this probably isn't the right tool.
But this tool is for the person who wants to be the CEO of their own health. Someone who understands that longevity isn't about perfection, it's about direction.
If you're playing the long game, the 90-year, 100-year, 110-year game, you know that small invisible changes compound over time.
This is for someone who doesn't panic over a single number, but pays attention to patterns. Someone who wants feedback early before problems become permanent.
This isn't about obsessing over your body. It's about staying engaged with it. If that doesn't sound like you right now, that's okay. The goal isn't to buy more tools. It's to use the right ones at the right time.
So here's the verdict. The Hume BodyPod is a powerful mirror. But remember, a mirror doesn't fix you. It just shows you where you stand.
The real value isn't in the device. It's in knowing what to do with the body you're building.
That's why you need to watch this video next. We break down 5 core longevity metrics used in elite longevity science. This scale tracks the quantity of your muscle, but this video tests the quality of it all.
If you're going to invest in the tool, make sure you have the roadmap to match. Click that video right now and let's turn that data into direction.